Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After into the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A, we answer fans' questions. Good amount to talk about in today's show. We're starting, it's crazy, we're almost in free agency. Only a few days away, a few weeks away, which is crazy. I think it was March 13th. Not great news for early free agency stuff, but we'll get into it. This first news story is sort of familiar. Tyreek Hill may undergo wrist surgery. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Tyreek Hill played through a torn ligament in his wrist during the 2024 campaign. Surgery was put off to allow him to play for the Dolphins, but it appears a procedure has now taken place. The Dolphins declined to comment when asked by the Miami Herald to confirm the procedure has taken. So this article is weird. He may or may not have had surgery on his wrist. I don't know why this is kept such a secret, other than the fact that they might want to trade him. But that's not hard. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know why. Even that doesn't make any sense. It's not hard for another NFL franchise to figure stuff like that out. Don't know what is taking. Why there's so much. The Dolphins have dealt with injuries. We'll just keep it to last year. They dealt with the injury stuff about as bad as you could deal with it. Especially with Tua. I don't know why there's so much mystery over the injuries, and not even just the concussions with Tua, but with the hip. And then you have the wrist with Hill, the knee surgery that he may or may not have had. I don't really know what's going on with that. It doesn't matter. Obviously, Tyreek Hill has brought up this wrist thing multiple times. This is old news in a way. If you just fix your wrist at this point. I mean, I don't understand why the Dolphins continue. Everything is a mystery. It's actually ridiculous. So moving on from that stupid piece of news, let's get into the more important news. Javon Holland, which this is very layered. So this comes from NFL.com. And I'm sure everybody knows about this, but Javon Holland thinks Dolphins social media indicates they've moved on. So if you're not keeping up with this whole thing, on Valentine's Day, every player got a Valentine's picture on Instagram except Javon Holland. And this is what he had to say about it. He said, quote, transparently seeing the Dolphins post things like the Valentine's Day stuff or any type of edits and things like that, you can see guys that may not be here next year or may be somewhere else are just not in it. He said this on a podcast. He goes on to say, quote, I'm like following them on Instagram, right? And I'm not in any of this stuff anymore. And I'm like, okay, they've kind of moved on. So because he wasn't in an Instagram post, he thinks that the Dolphins are going to get rid of him. Now, this is just this is the NFL. It's sports in general that we're in today. A lot of this stuff matters, I guess, with the I don't even know. Like, and it's an Instagram page. I highly doubt Chris Greer has anything to do with the Twitter or the Instagram for the Dolphins. And I really highly doubt. Now, he would have to be really dumb. Him or Mike McDaniel will tell anybody who's leading the social media teams anything when it comes to personnel stuff. Why would you? And they may have not have put him on there just because he is a free agent. Who knows why they didn't put him on there? I would assume that's the reason, is like, okay, he could be gone. I don't know. I don't think that means anything. It just kind of seems that Javon Holland wants to leave. Just to put it plainly, he even put a list out of things that he was looking for his new team if he were to move on. And so it just kind of seems, I mean, when you put stuff like that, even what he said, I can't remember what he said exactly after that he wouldn't mind leaving or whatever, how he put it. It just kind of seems that he wants to leave. The thing that frustrates me is the Dolphins should have, by the way, let's start here. We'll start here first. We'll back it up. Let's back it up. So I guess this is sort of important. By the way, this was reposted by a Buffalo Bills fan. So this is what Javon Holland said he's looking for in his next stop. And this is what he's looking for in free agency. Detailed and experienced coaching, honest culture, men leading head coach, a team that wants to win, leaders that want to lead and set examples by actions, not by their word. That's what he's had to say about... Now, you could look into that 15,000 different ways. This is the same man that wanted Vic Fangio fired. And then he goes to Philadelphia, and we know how that worked out. He was one of the players that didn't get along with him. Javon Holland might be a difficult person in the locker room. I'm not sure. But, that doesn't send a good message to the front office of the Dolphins. It doesn't send a good message to Mike McDaniel. I mean, literally saying that a men leading head coach, whether those are shots at the Dolphins or not, I don't know. It's just not a good look if you want to stay there somewhere to do stuff like that. So he's like he's got a list studied, and then now he says the Dolphins don't want him anymore because of Instagram. Stuff like that is just not great. So now let's go to the Dolphin side of this. This is what makes me more upset than anything. Their priorities are so backwards. I don't really understand what are they doing? Because he's 24 years old. Let me repeat that again. He's 24 years old, and he's already a great player. He hasn't even hit or even gotten close to his prime yet. He has all of his prime ahead of him. This really reminds me of Minka, where that was kind of a different situation where people who didn't watch the games didn't really... I don't know. Minka was another situation where they never really should have gotten rid of him. Obviously, he wasn't happy in Miami because of Brian Flores, but there is a trend with Dolphins leaving and then playing somewhere else, and then the other team gets the best of their prime. I mean, we can name a ton of different players, especially in the 2000s, that have done that. So we don't. That's a long list, and I just don't want Javon Holland to be a part of that. And what I mean by they're getting their priorities straight is they extend someone who's in their 30s in Jalen Ramsey. Give him more money, which doesn't make any sense. God bless Jalen Ramsey, but he's at the back end of his career. He's not. He's a good player. He's a good corner. He's a great, and I would say he's still a great football player. I'm not sure he's great at corner anymore. I'm sure if you move him around, maybe at safety or nickel, he's still, I think, can be like a first team All-Pro player. But I don't think at outside corner he's that guy anymore. I don't think he's a first team All-Pro caliber player. And you're not going to get many more years of him. And you draft someone to hit, second round pick out of Oregon, and you choose not to prioritize some of the younger players on the roster. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Javon Holland might be done with Miami, might be done with, he's been here for a while now. So I don't think it's entirely on the Dolphins, but they should have extended him a long time ago. And we'll see what they end up doing with him in free agency, but it's not a good look to extend someone like Jalen Ramsey and not extend Javon Holland. And I said that at the time when we extended Jalen Ramsey. I said that at the time. And Javon is a cornerstone piece to the defense. He should have been re-signed already, and he should play many more years with some of the young players on this defensive line. And again, another thing, there's many layers to this. Number one, he's never really had been able to play his best football because he's had to cover up for a lot of different holes on this defense pretty much since he got here. And then the one time he really didn't have to do that, when Vic Fangio was here, he got hurt. So he was injured the entire season. So it just has never really all come together for him. And I'm sure as soon as he leaves us, it's going to come together for him, which is unfortunate. And last year, like I said, he had to cover up. He played a lot of nickel corner at the end of the year. They moved him around a lot. And they already have a problem at safety. Jordan Poyer is not an NFL starter anymore. They have to fix that even if they keep Holland. So if they it doesn't make any sense to move on from a player that young with that much football ahead of him, and to get rid of a player like that is just insane. And again, to compare, so Jalen Ramsey, so again, like I said, Javon Holland is 24. Jalen Ramsey is 30 years old. So there's a 6-year difference in the both of them. Still a great player, Ramsey, but he's not 24 years old and going into his prime. And I'm sure Javon will get a very big contract in free agency from somebody. I hope somehow the Dolphins can figure it out. I doubt it with the way that things are looking. So it is what it is. To me, this should have been done a while ago. It would be crazy if he goes to Buffalo. I don't know if Buffalo can afford him. Obviously, they need safeties, and they love safeties. And a good thing, another thing about Javon Holland is he's so versatile. And he's the best man coverage, if not one of the best man coverage safety in the NFL. He can play corner at a pretty high level. And at least slot corner. I don't know about outside corner, but at least slot corner he can do at a very high level. And he can play safety at a very high level. I don't know why the Dolphins... This would have been like, we have to re-sign this guy type of stuff. But, of course, I just hope... Just another, just head-scratching thing. So the offseason is not getting off to a great start. So let's move on from that. My hope is that if he does leave, which would be very frustrating, if he does leave, my hope is that they at least execute the things that they promised to in the postseason press conference. It's like, okay, we're going to make the offensive line better. Okay, well, you better do that if you're going to lose someone like Javon Holland, who's going to be a superstar, and you don't even re-sign him. Stuff like that is just moving backwards. So they better execute the things that they said they were going to at a high level, so they don't get worse. Anytime you lose a young player like that, it's always bad. But we'll start here. These are the 10 best the 10 best offensive linemen in free agency according to Fox Sports. Now, I want to do an entire video where I break down my favorite free agents for the Dolphins. I need to make the list. It's going to be pretty long, so we'll do a whole video dedicated to that. But this is just a quick preview of some of the players that they might be interested in. Now, 2 players that just jump off the screen when you talk about offensive linemen is Will Fries, guard for the Colts. That's a great one. Be a great pick. He's young. He's durable. He's probably not the biggest name in the world. Some of these other guys are pretty highly touted. He was ranked at If This Matters to You. Sometimes, PFF to me is kind of hit or miss, or it's pretty much a miss. I don't really like PFF. But they were it was their 4th ranked guard last year. And maybe his projected money is 12 to 14 million. That's a durable, great guard. Helps the offensive line. He's not going to miss games. That's perfect. He is, hold on. My bad. I misread this. He started every game in 2023, and then he got injured in 2024, which, not great. But for the most part, his injury history is pretty good. 13 to 14 or 12 to 14 million dollars. He's not the best player on this list, but he's pretty good. Will Fries, I think, is another guy that stands out. A name that Dolphins fans are going to throw around is Kevin Zeiler from the Lions. He's probably not going to re-sign in Detroit. He's an older guard. He's 34, and not what the Dolphins want. So, no. Another name, Tevin Jenkins for the Bears. He's 26 years old. PFF had him at 13th guard. The offensive line for the Chicago Bears didn't play too well, especially in the run game. I don't know if that's necessarily where the Dolphins want to go, but he's a young player. His projected cap is 10 to 12. That's pretty good. It's definitely an improvement of what they had. So Tevin Jenkins could be someone that they could definitely acquire. My favorite one out of this entire list here. It's not even close. It's Mekhi Becton. This would be the dream. This would be the dream. Mekhi Becton is one of the best guards in the NFL. He's probably, you could argue, the best run blocking guard in the National Football League. He's 6'7", 360. I mean, he's a ginormous human being. 363 pounds. Everybody knows who Mekhi Becton is. He's 25 years old. What else do I have to say? The man's phenomenal. The only thing I would say about Mekhi Becton, that he doesn't fit the scheme, which not necessarily. He can't, he's not the best in space because he's so big. He's a great athlete. Like going downhill, him getting like combination blocks and getting to the second level, he's really good at. I'm not really so sure how great he is at pulling and stuff like that, even though the Dolphins do most of that stuff with their center. So maybe that won't matter that much. All I know is he's a phenomenal, physical, great young player that could really change the offensive line for the Dolphins. He has had some injury stuff in his past. We all know that, especially his early years with the Jets when he was trying to play tackle coming out of Louisville. But that's probably the only downside. He played every game last year for Philadelphia. Maybe you would worry about giving him a big contract because of his weight stuff in the past. But maybe that's something you also could, like, as a negative, I guess you could worry about. Who knows? But he's a phenomenal player. Would be a dream. He's only ranked 5th on this offensive line list. I think he should be way higher. And he would be way higher, I would assume, on the Dolphins list. The interior is where they need to get better. This would be like a massive... Mekhi Becton is in a different galaxy when you compare him to Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg. It's not even close. They shouldn't even be in the same league. It's the fact that they start in the same league is mind, like, that doesn't make any sense. So if he doesn't re-sign with Philadelphia, this would be a perfect pick for the Dolphins. Pick up for the Dolphins. This one I'm going to throw in here because there are some ties here. Ronnie Stanley for the Ravens. I doubt he's obviously plays tackle. If the Dolphins aren't sold on, which I doubt, because Patrick Paul has done nothing to sway them from this, but I don't know. For some reason, when I read this, I was like, Ronnie Stanley kind of seems like a Chris Greer guy. Dealt with a lot of injuries. This is not going to happen. He plays tackle. I doubt the Dolphins. Maybe. I just don't think that's something that they need. But it just, I don't know. For whatever reason, when I read the name, I was like, something about it. It just kind of felt weird. But something to look out for. Ronnie Stanley for the Ravens. I highly doubt they're going to get rid of him. Excuse me. So again, I think what matters here, especially with a player like Will Fries, who's 26. Just make sure he's 26. He's in his mid-20s. I think he's 25, actually. He's 25. Mekhi Becton, 25. That's where we want to be, is in that range. We don't want an older, like what the Jets did. You don't want to do what the Jets did last year with a bunch of like Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith. That was a stupid thing to do. And that's not something the Dolphins have done in the past. That's like, players like Brandon Albert, older players, not John Jerry. There was another one Josh Sitton is who I was thinking about. Players like that they're injury prone and they're old. That's not what we want. This is number one. This would be the best pickup for the Dolphins is Trey Smith from the Chiefs. This isn't going to happen. The dream, the line, the stars. Now, granted, we could also draft an offensive lineman. That's also a high possibility. That's probably one of the better case scenarios for the Dolphins. Obviously, depends on who they get. I am just so gung-ho and pro fix the offensive line that's all I want this offseason. So I don't really care what happens as long as we fix the line of scrimmage, because I think that's where the turnaround for the Dolphins will start. I've said it many times, Mike McDaniel, run game coordinator. It starts with the run, and Tua's a pocket passer, so that's something that we've sorely lacked since Tua's been drafted here, is a stable, healthy offensive line. It's time to change that. Hopefully we can do that this offseason. And even if we got Will Fries and Mekhi Becton, that's between the two of them, that's $20 million a year. $24 million max a year. That's nothing, dude. And you're making your quarterback better. You're making your dang offense way better. I just don't understand. Like, just do it. We want like I said, it could be Mekhi Becton, Will Fries. You know, I'm sure I don't know how many, not the most known players in the world. Trey Smith would be the stars aligned, but he's gonna get a lot of money on the market, and I'm sure Mekhi Becton will too. I'm not sure about that. I mean, players that win a Super Bowl tend to get overpaid, so especially the season he just had. He had such a great season, so he might be a little bit too rich for the Dolphins, but yeah, Mekhi Becton, Will Fries, Mekhi Becton, Trey Smith. There's some centers on here that maybe they can convert to guard. Players like, let's see here, who's a good one? Most of these guys are tackles. Thank God. I think it is Kevin Zeitler. Like I said, he's too old. Drew Dahlman for the Falcons. That's a great one. Similar schemes. 26 years old. Maybe they can. He's rated the 4th best center by PFF. Maybe they can convert him to guard if they wanted to. But again, the 3 that really stand out to me is Will Fries, Mekhi Becton, and Trey Smith. Those are the boys. So, I mean, those guys are dominant at their position. And again, for not that much money, and the guard position isn't like an overly expensive position to begin with. So, and they're young. They're just hitting their primes. They're all in their 20s, mid to early 20s. So those are the guards, some of the guards, and I'm sure we'll get it because there's always under the radar guys that I want to get into, but we'll get into that later. This next list comes from Dolphins Wire. 10 wide receivers the Dolphins could pursue this offseason. Obviously, the Dolphins need. It's fun. Malik Washington's great, but they need a bigger receiver who can block. And I think Malik Washington's actually willing to do the stuff like that, which is good. But someone a bigger receiver is great. So let's run through some of these names. Again, this is an article from Dolphins Wire. So Mike Williams is a name in this article. That's a 0. He's okay. I don't think that's someone the Dolphins necessarily need. He's not a great route runner. He can't separate. He literally he's one-dimensional. He's out of his prime. Deontay Johnson is absolutely not. Marquise Brown, absolutely not. Just another speed guy who can't block. Keenan Allen, it could be interesting in the slot. For especially a veteran player like that, him and Tua. The last time we tried that, but Keenan Allen's played in the slot before. Doesn't really fix the run blocking stuff, but would be a phenomenal. I think him and Tua would have a great chemistry. Braxton Berrios is not that's never developed into anything. Juju Smith-Schuster could be perfect. Big receiver. Played in the slot a lot in his career, can block, probably one of the top 5 run blockers at his position. So that's perfect. Juju Smith-Schuster would be a really good pick for the Dolphins. Pretty cheap, too. And then he puts Luther Burden at the draft on here. Great player. Pretty much, I mean, very, like, something the Dolphins would... a lot of speed, can separate... I don't know how tall. I'm pretty sure he's a bigger. Like he's at least 6 feet. Maybe not. I don't remember how tall he is. Emeka Egbuka. I can't remember. I don't know how you say his name. The Ohio State receiver. Perfect fit. Can block. Physical. He could be someone the Dolphins look into in the draft. Xavier Restrepo, every Miami Dolphins fan knows who he is. Obviously, great player. Would be great with Tua. Someone that they could put in the second round. I think that's a great call. Isaiah Bond, Texas. Speed guy. I don't know. Not really what the Dolphins need. especially if they keep Tyreek Hill. Small speed guys is not what the Dolphins need. I would say all the names that really stand out to me, well, Restrepo would be like come on. I think Restrepo would be awesome. Him and Tua would be great together. Abuka, Emike Abuka, I don't know. Okay, Emike. I'm probably butchering his name. I actually think that's a good call too. It's actually better. I think I would rather have those two than Luther Burton, because I just think it fits what the Dolphins are kind of looking for is an inside presence, similar to what the 49ers did with God, I'm blanking on his name. The receiver they picked out of Florida who got shot. Very similar to what that he brought to them. Just a really dominant force over the middle, and Restrepo is perfect for that. And he can block, and he's not the biggest guy, but he can block. In terms of free agency, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is actually a great call. Cheap, not very expensive, and just can do the dirty work at a high level and can get open. And I think him with Mike McDaniel, he could have a little bit of a rejuvenation. He's been, obviously, he's never ever, I would say he had a better season last year, but obviously it's not like his first 2 or 3 years in the league. He's definitely, after he got from New England, he just really hasn't been the same. But that's a player that a veteran player can come in and give the Dolphins good snaps and could be a good player for them. So this last, I forgot to even bring this up. This is actual news. This comes from, I believe, sorry guys, hold on. I lost it here. The Palm Beach Post. Patrick Paul, preparing to start, drops 10 plus pounds in the offseason. This pretty much doesn't surprise anybody. He had a really good rookie season, especially, like, I feel like I think it surprised a lot of people, and he could be dominant in the run game. I'm so excited for his future with the Dolphins. I think he's going to be a great player. Thank God they nailed this pick, because it really frees them up to fix the interior. And the fact that he's lost 10 pounds, they need to move on from Armstead. They can't rely on him, and even if they keep Armstead, whatever, because at least Patrick Paul's backing him up. But I think I'm more for him passing the torch to Patrick Paul and just letting him play, and get better as the starter, get a camp starting, all that good stuff, and he's gonna be practicing against a great defensive line on the edges. So that I think it's time to start him. So we talked about a lot. I'm excited for free agency. I just hope they can fix the offensive line. At least get a guard, and that's worth any, like, someone. Like, if Mekhi Becton would be perfect. Well, for anybody like that, someone who can come in and really make a difference, who's younger, that's great. And I'm excited to see what the plan is in free agency. I hope they can sign. I doubt it. All roads are not pointing to Javon Holland coming back, but we'll see what they do. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.